Hey, thanks for coming in. All right. 7
Got
a.m.
it.
here. Yeah. Rolling over and ripping the sleep out of my eye a bit. So
Why,
um
did you have a nap?
I had a full night's sleep. Yeah. Well, actually I stayed up until like 2 a.m. playing guitar on my front porch, but that's just it's the
Well, there
time of the
you
year for
go.
that.
Were you smoking or drinking?
That's drinking. Japan's warming up to it. Like you can now get CBD stuff.
Oh,
Uh
good. Yeah,
I've
that's
noticed
happening.
some of the newspapers kind of like actually having articles about it, which would have been unheard of probably like 2 years ago. So we'll see if they cross any more lines. But
So I take it you're in Tokyo?
Nagano,
Nagano, where's that?
that's up in the mountains. If you take the
Oh,
bullet train,
nice.
it's about an hour. So
Oh,
I'm
I love Japan. It's such a miracle place. Beautiful place.
yeah, I got my valley. So it's like I haven't really gone anywhere in the past 2 years, but I already live in like a resort area. So it's like, what's the
Yeah.
point?
Well, just like when I was in prison in the desert, I really enjoyed myself because I'd never lived on a desert before. And so a desert's very, very freaky and beautiful and interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I had one evening. I haven't been much in the desert, but I was camping in the Owens Valley once, and definitely, that starscape was like,
Isn't that crazy?
NASA's just sending those photos in now, and I'm like, oh, that. I mean, of course, they're looking at like a grain of sand up in the sky and blowing it up, but watching it from
Yeah.
Earth was
Hey, listen,
perfectly
we're seeing
fine.
it. We're seeing it. It's incredible. Isn't it incredible?
Yeah,
Yeah. It just shows
3D
you,
skies.
there's no end to eternity, is there?
Yeah, really. Everything's fractal in the end. Before we get rolling too much, Luke, if he didn't oversleep, will probably be in like right on time or 2 minutes late. At least I don't know if you're into Sun Ra, but there's a movie where it's like Sun Ra, the jazz musician. He's always 2 minutes late. So
No,
I can
I'm
relate to
early. I was early today.
it. Oh,
Yeah,
you're early. Yeah.
I'm three. I was about 4 minutes early,
You are. I'm
but
talking about Luke, my co-host.
yeah, I know. But it's okay. Is
um
he, uh, is he a Caucasian too?
yeah, I actually, I've been doing the Twilight Zone here, and I've been trying to get in lots of people. So like there's some episodes where I'm like, oh, this one really needs to have a female guest because it can't be like two dudes sitting around talking about it. Or
Yeah.
I
Well,
have
yeah, there's always possibilities of getting female guests, huh?
oh yeah. So I've been originally I was just like, oh, I'll do this with my friends, but I was like, oh, I can't do all these episodes just like, I need like lots of perspectives. So this coming Monday I have like a trans sci-fi writing duo. So that should be interesting.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice, nice.
Before we
Tran.
get rolling, I have one question. I usually
Sure.
do an episode, but there seem to be some issues. So you just want to do a like general talk about Twilight Zone and weirdness
Yeah,
and
if
all
you
that
don't
sort of thing.
mind.
Yep.
I'm not, I'm a stoner and I'm scattered, so
So we can
I
we can
tend
have a nice
to.
scattered discussion.
Yeah, yeah, that's a stoner discussion.
And the plus of that is I'll put it out in like 2 or 3 days, whereas the episode I would
Sure.
have sat on for a few months. So
Oh, good.
so it'll be a real quick turnaround. And it's your 3 p.m. Is it? Where are you? Are you in LA or out in the
Los
desert?
Angeles, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
LA, in the home of the what's it called? The virus.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of the name now. COVID. It's COVID city.
Is it? Okay. I don't know. Yeah, Japan's weird. Like they have a lot of cases, but people except for trains, people are already social distancing. Like everywhere wears a mask everywhere. You're
Yeah,
being a bit of a rebel not wearing one outside, which the government
yeah.
actually said you can stop doing that. But if you're inside, you don't see anyone like not
They're
masking
so
up still.
comfortable. They've been the Japanese and the Koreans too, and some Chinese. They've been wearing masks forever, a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I
Like
mean,
they're
it's just their
sick.
culture. I think it's the smog in China, and and it's the what do you call it? neatness freak attitude in Japan. Everything has to be neat, tidy, and
Right.
and just right. It has to be politically correct. Everything has to be. And don't walk on the wrong side. If you're going up the stairs, you got to go up that one side. Yeah, I love Japan. I was in Tokyo, and they got you go downstairs where the food is, but you're not allowed to walk and eat.
Right.
You got to stay in one spot and eat in the eating area. And if you get caught out of that, woo, that's a no.
I get around it by I go home from work and I do one train station early and like take a walk, and then I can walk and eat. I'm in like rice fields. No one's ever gonna see me. So oh,
but you feel guilty though.
Sorry,
you're doing wrong.
Luke is there. The one thing I forgot to do was actually send him the Zoom link, so he'll be in a moment. Sorry, as you can see, my weird podcasting shtick is like me holding my microphone. So
yeah, that's so cool.
So I only get one hand to use my computer with. One thing.
So you go back to the 50s, are you, or 60s?
Yeah. Well, I put on like a kind of my work shirt and my blazer. I was like, I'll look a little more Serling, but then I was like, no, it's too hot for that, so I gave up.
Oh, good. Yeah. That doesn't work all the time.
There, he's a buff man there. It's the gym.
Rod Serling in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I'm going to post up before we really get rolling.
What was the music? Da, 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 that one?
Yeah, that's from season 2 on. They had like this really creepy stuff on before that, and both of them are pretty cool. So okay, Luke looks like he just came on.
Yeah, but
there we go.
There.
Okay, that's cool. I don't know if we might get psychedelic video from Luke. So
yep, there you go.
We're traveling to another dimension, a dimension not only Satan.
Yeah.
Satan's sound but of mind, the journey into the wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. That is the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, if you don't mind, with the music, that's rocking.
There we go.
Okay, I'll throw in like a quick intro, and Luke, like I mentioned, we're just gonna have like the 20,000 feet view and talk about whatever we want to, and if it's a Twilight Zone, we talk about whatever we want. So
cool beans.
We're in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Hey everybody, this is kind of 2 podcasts and one today. It's Time Enough podcast where we talk about the Twilight Zone and beyond. But I can do a double intro today because this is Matt.
This is Luke.
That is Luke, and it's a Sci-Fi Sanctuary. I'm gonna swap cast it. So we're just gonna have the 20,000 in the air, 20,000 feet in the air view of the Twilight Zone today. Talk to a man who, if you're getting into comedy, he's kind of the Twilight Zone of comedy, I think.
Oh, thank you. I like that.
Talking to Tommy Chong. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. So something that I was thinking is, I think you're the first person we've had on that could have like actually watched the show like on the air, like when it was airing.
Oh, I was there when it started. I'm so old. I'm before television. When I was a kid, when I was a kid, we never had indoor plumbing, let alone television. We never had electricity. I found out just recently that I'm 8% native. So I'm an indigenous, my mother was a quarter and my grandmother was half native. And so I was really, my dad was Chinese. So I was always taught that I was half Chinese, but they didn't tell me that I was a quarter native. And so I really grew up in a native hut almost. And like I said, we had a little wood cook stove to heat the house in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where it got like 30 below for 9 months sometimes. And so the entertainment, we never had we had the most we had was radio. We had a radio, and I sort of I was in charge of the radio, because the rest of the family were too busy, just trying to survive and make do without entertainment. But so when television came in, I remember television. I remember when we got our first television set and all the shows that we watched, and the Twilight Zone, when it came on, I remember very clearly when that came on. Rod Serling, because he took you with your imagination and took you out. But he wasn't the first. Remember the War of the Worlds with what's his name? Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first. He was really the first, because what he did, he took everybody and told everybody that the Martians were attacking, and people with their imaginations really thought it was true. And so he had them on a trip. So it was, that show was great. Loved it.
When I was growing up, I was obsessed with the musical version of War of the Worlds.
Where?
The musical version of War of the Worlds, the Jeff Wayne.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
So when I was a kid, that used to take me on a trip. I was terrified of it.
That's your hometown, right?
Yeah. I was born in Woking, where War of the Worlds starts.
So he's the first to meet the Martians when they come.
Yeah.
He sees the Martians. Yeah.
But we've actually got big statues of them in my hometown.
Oh, really? Oh my God. What a coincidence.
Yep.
England, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, Stonehenge is supposed to have some sort of alien touch to it. And there's all sorts of weird things going on over there.
Yeah, we drive past Stonehenge every time we visited my grandparents. My granddad would say, put your hand out the window and you can get some of the power.
That's what the Transformers plug into, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Tommy, you mentioned the radio. There's a lot of like kind of Twilight Zone-y shows, that preceded, but they were on the radio. So I was wondering if you are like into any of those, or if any of those I
was totally into radio growing up. I heard, that's where I got my first comedy roots, were the first comedy album or comedy record. Well, there's no albums, but the first comedy record I heard was by Andy Griffith. Remember the Andy Griffith Show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Andy Griffith, he was a comic, and he did a recording called What It Was Football. And it was a story about this young Southern boy seeing a football game for the first time and trying to explain it to his relatives, And he talks about being in a big pasture, and these people on one side kick this thing, look like a cow pie or something like that. And the other side gets that, and he tries to run without stepping into something. It was the first comedy, and they played it like every day for probably a while. Maybe I couldn't tell the time back then, but that would be early in the morning. We'd listen to the before we went to school, or up early in the morning, and then at night I got to listen to all the Lone Ranger. There was The Life of Riley. That was another radio show. Amos and Andy, the white guys or Jewish guys playing black guys. There was all sorts of radio shows. And I heard Bob Hope when he was doing his war things, war bonds. And I go way back. There was a radio show called The Shadow, and because of your imagination, he was invisible, and he would listen in on people committing crimes, and he would thwart them at the right time, and the theme was The Shadow Knows.
Yeah, at least that phrase has resonated a bit through time. I feel like, I don't know. Am I getting old? Can you say the shadow knows and people still know what you're talking about?
No.
But as Luke knows, people only know I'm talking about like maybe 40% of the time. So,
Yeah.
Tommy, something I like to run on the show is I already flashed you the prologue, and I asked the guests to give their reading, and you could do it. You could do your Rod Serling impression. You could just do it however you want. I have some people that just do it for annoying voices for the whole time. But if you can give us a reading here.
You ready?
Yeah.
You are traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
No one did the music that time. That's fine. You don't have to. But it's hard not to just hear the music like rolling through your head a bit when you do it.
Well, Cheech and I, when we just decided to do an album, comedy album, that's what we drew on my radio listening experience, because back then, when you listen to radio, it wasn't just what it is now. It was really film. It was theater of the imagination, and that was the plays they would use. I mean, they would transport you into wherever they wanted to go, and that was like with your imagination. It's much as powerful, or probably even more so, when you're young and and eager for that experience, like being scared. That was another thing you could do over radio with sound real easy. You could scare the hell out of people.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like, podcasting is kind of getting a lot of us like kind of back there, because you're talking about getting the getting scared and stuff, and I'm thinking, man, with a head of some headphones on, and you got the sound effects, because people are starting to make these things again.
They are, of course, of course. Nothing stays the same. It always goes in cycles. It's the same thing, only better, different. I love what's going on, because that's what they're doing too. It's imagination. Your imagination can take you anywhere. And if you look at it spiritually, which I did when I was in prison, it's your imagination. But if you imagine positively, like you can go into these positive universes, that are real. Some are real, very real, or they become real. And others are a little beyond the grasp of reality, but they're also like, there's no limit to how far you can take your imagination if you're on a positive, creative, exploring, looking for knowledge. If you're looking for knowledge, as opposed to seeing how much evil you can deal with before you go, okay, that's enough. I don't want to look at that anymore.
It's kind of like a state of your intention. It's like what you're looking for. If you're looking for, positive universes, you're more likely to find them. But if if you're living in fear, you're going to end up in like a fearful universe. So,
well, interesting thing. I was watching John Hinckley. He just got out of prison after serving 40 some odd years for trying to kill President Reagan. And the reason he's still alive, and the reason he's out of jail now, is that he was found innocent due to insanity. And as a result, what he had to do was prove that he's no longer crazy. And so they let him out, limited release. He's under all sorts of rules that he has to do, but he's alive and free. But watching the interview, I realized it was his imagination that made him do what he did. And that's what's going on a lot with the mass killings that are taking place. I'm just watching. I got CNN with the sound on, and so I keep a bridge of what all the latest massacres, the shootings, the daily shootings that we have, and what I realize is that those ones that commit the crimes, including, I just watched the cops that were waiting outside the door while the killer was inside the school shooting up everybody. And the cops are not huddled, but they're definitely not in any danger. They're in the doorway. And it was their imagination that kept them out in fear, you see. And because that's what you do, when you have time, you can imagine the worst. And the trouble is with these cops, they're small town cops. And so they weren't trained, they weren't combat trained, where you lose your will, basically, and you just act automatically, and then sometimes you get killed, and other times you don't. And if you don't, you go, wow, I was lucky. But when you start thinking about things like obviously the cops did. And it was like, I ain't going in there. I don't want to die.
Even in things that aren't as extreme as that, even just little day-to-day things, the version you worry about is always 10 times worse than what actually happens.
Yes.
When it's, you got to talk to your girlfriend after a fight, or you got to go in for a meeting with your boss. In your head, it's, oh, I'm fired. I'm definitely fired. And it never is that, but your imagination convinces you that it is.
Absolutely. And it's a consciousness too, because if you do wrong and you did wrong, it's the thought. It's the thought that drives you. That's the other thing too. I do cameos, a lot of cameos, and a lot of the cameos, they want like uplifting short messages, and so I try to steer people to the joys of controlling your thoughts. Because if you can control your thoughts, that's why very intelligent people are always reading. They're reading uplifting books or fiction or even biographies or anything that puts their thoughts on a nice creative ride, and there again, that's your imagination. And yeah, it's, but happiness, and I tell them too, it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. But you also have to explore too. I got a little granddaughter. She's coming up to being 2 years old, and she's so cute now. She has a great imagination. She scares herself now. Like she'll watch the little kid program and it'll get scary. And like, ooh, like Halloween, ooh. And so she likes that feeling of scaring herself, and watching her discover those things, because that's what puts us apart from the rest of the creatures, is our imagination.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the things I've heard a few people say on the Twilight Zone here, is just like, wow, they let people watch this in 1960, because you're coming off of like kind of
I like that let. Yeah, they let people see. Back in the day, there were things they would not let you see. They had that code of conduct, that morality clause on radio and television. Radio used to be so strict. There's all things you couldn't talk about, things you couldn't say. You get bumped off there right away. You can't say that. How dare you? And remember the time delay. Just in case someone swore, they threw that time delay switch. Yeah, that's wow. That's almost like a thing of the past now.
But yeah, it's like, I guess I'm wondering about, like, what kind of subversive effect might have come through, like, watching these for the first time. Like, what am I seeing? Or is it, is it something people would talk about at the water coolers or whatever? What was the influence when you were first seeing this?
When I first what?
When you were first seeing Twilight Zone episodes, when they were new, what was the vibe?
It was a trend back then, you know. In the Twilight Zone, they were one of the first, but they had other shows that had, you know, that's what they would do. You know, they would dabble in what do you call it? The seriousness, especially the scary stuff. You know, it seemed to be easier for writers to write. You know, the tough one, you had to have really a good knack for comedy. You know, and because you know comedy it was very touchy, but you could scare people so easy. You know, you can scare them with just a thought. My when I was a kid, well, not a kid, I loved to read. When I was going to school, I was really good in literature because that was the only thing I really understood. I was terrible in math, not hopeless, but terrible enough that it was kind of boring, you know. Okay, numbers, you know. I never found any excitement in numbers, but literature, using your imagination, you know, reading something. And there was one scary story about this girl on her way home from her friend's house, and she feels somebody following her. And so she's going home, and at first she's just walking normally. And as she walked, she could hear the footprints behind her matching her footprints. And then, oh my God, and then she'd run and she could hear the sound of people running. And oh my God, she's just almost to her house. And the sound was getting louder. And then she really ran really hard, fast, got in the house, went through the front door, opened the door, got in, closed the door, locked. And she felt safe. And then she was looking out the window to see who was following her. She could see. And she heard something behind her breathing.
Is that the end? Is that where we ended?
That's
The
the
imaginations for the rest? Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I was like, oh, what happened? Oh, okay.
It's true. When I was a kid, the story that got me the most wasn't even quite horror. You know, I'd read a Stephen King book or something, be fine. But there was a story like written for like elementary school kids where basically the firecracker goes off in the kid's face because he wasn't careful and he goes blind. And for some reason, that was the one that like stuck in my craw.
Really?
For me, it was reading all the UFO and alien encounters, all of those books. Every single night, I would absolutely terrify myself. I couldn't sleep. And then the next night, I'd do it all over again.
Yeah, the thrill. Well, you know, it's a rush. It's adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
You see, what it is, it's a chemical reaction that your body has. When your body's about to be in danger, it sends these pain-killing drugs through your system. And so you can do incredible feats of strength. You can run, you're awake, all your senses are alive because it's to protect the body. The body's in danger. And I like thrill seekers, you know, the ones that climb up sides of mountains or skydive and all that, you know, that's at what they're looking for. Is the high they get is adrenaline rush, because what you're really doing is you're about to kill your body. And so your body goes, oh no, we're going to be having a lot of pain here. So boom, let's give them all these good drugs. And so you're on that high, and sometimes it lasts for a while. It's also the same high you get when you either kill somebody or you're about to be killed. It's the same thing, because what happens is that your body knows that whatever you're going to be doing, it's going to change. You're really going to die. The old you is going to disappear when you do this dangerous thing, you know, like if it's a criminal act and you end up in jail, the life that you once knew is dead, you see. And so that's where that termination thing, and that's why you're like you go on that high, you go on that high, and I think personally too is that's the high that junkie heroin addicts get, because they not only get high on the drug, but they get high on the fact that the drug that they're doing to themselves is really killing them. It's going to kill them one way or another. And your body knows that. And so that's another high you get. But in a way, it's a fact of life. You know, like, this is what I learned as you get older, is that you learn these things, but then you learn that they're inevitable. There's no cure. There's no cure for it, because what we're really doing as human beings, we're going through a learning process in the physical world. See, you can only learn things in the physical world. You can't learn things in the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world, there's no want, need, or desire. There just is. They're just love. That's all you have in the spiritual world. It's a physical world that is exciting.
Yeah, I'm thinking another way you can kind of get there. I mean, they call it like the runner's high, right? When you've hit
Yeah.
that wall and you can't go any farther, and then boom, you know, you get
Well,
the,
well, you're actually killing yourself, and that extra one that says, okay, you want to keep going, okay, I'm going to have to take care of the pain and everything else, and then push you on high. I think I watched the documentary of Muhammad Ali, and all through his career, he was invincible. He was the toughest man on the planet, and he really was. And then when he had to come back a couple of times for Fraser, and then he had to beat George Foreman, that's when he should have quit, because it was that height. And then after that, he just went downhill, because physically he was not the Superman that he once was. And so he just went down the hill. But it was that will that he had inside, that the thought of the thrill of winning, and the thought of it, that kept him going back in the ring. He was just, he couldn't stop until he finally got Parkinson's, and then he died from the injuries that he received by not quitting when he should have. You know?
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, so you know, it was a big deal. I think it was the well, I know it was the '96 Summer Olympics, where he was the guy that lit the final torch, and you could tell the guy was having some trouble making it up there. But again, well, he had the willpower to do it. So,
well, that's why they got him, because of that will that he had. You know, I mean, it was insane at the end, but it shows you that you will do anything for that high. You know what I mean? That's why junkies kill themselves. That's why, you know, people will fold a career, a life, a wife, family, everything, just for the shot of that feeling, the feeling, which I guess when you die, you're going to get.
Yeah. I mean, one of the more effective episodes we did with the first season was a boxer, you know, and trying to win that bout, and you know, supernaturally through a kid being able to win it, and finding like that's the worst thing that could happen to him, you know, or the gunfighter in an early episode, the worst thing that could happen is he wins, you know. If he's neutralized, he can actually go on and enjoy his life, and sort of like lose that stress, lose that albatross of being a gunfighter, being a boxer, you know.
But you know, like the fruit fly, you know, where some of us are designed to just be, you know, shine brightly and then leave, because that's what I learned is the inevitable eternal life. I mean, eventually we will all realize, or maybe not, that we are eternal beings. And by what I mean by that is that we've always been here. All the history that we read about, we were there, you know, in one form or another. And every time we come back is to learn what it's like to be Tommy Chong, you know, and learn what it's like to be you. And then we'll go through a cycle. And then when that's over, we'll go back to the spiritual. And by the way, I found out that there's an opposite for everything. You know, you can't have one without the other. In other words, you can't have up without down. You can't have near without far. You can't have Cheech without Chong, kind of thing. You got to have the opposite. And so in the physical world, as we're looking through the telescopes and everything else, it's everything. The physical world has everything. And what is the opposite of everything? Nothing. That's the spiritual world. The spiritual world is the opposite of what we are now. That's why there's always room in the spiritual world, because there's the only thing in the spiritual world is energy, which is living energy, which is who we are. And so we're really, our spirit is about the size of a thought. And that's what we are. When it comes right down to it, we are a thought, but we're a thought that has always been here. That's in one form or another. Like energy has always been, the sun has always been the sun. And before that, it was whatever you are before a sun.
You could call this a walking meditation, or you could just call it me playing mind games with myself, or it could be the same thing. But just recently I've been, looking for fractals, right? I'm in a valley, and you look at the mountains, and you look at a closer part of the mountains, and it kind of has the same contours, or a crack in the pavement. You look at a smaller part of the crack, and it's pretty much the same thing. So it's kind of hard to fully apply that to your life, but there's something there for sure,
Well, no, you can, but we're not supposed to. They're not all of us are not all of us know how to do the Rubik's Cube. Not all of us know why we're here. And there's so many of us that are not supposed to know. It was spoiler alert. And that's what gurus found out, that they had to shut the fuck up, or you end up, if you're too good, you end up being executed, because there's a lot of powerful people that don't want, gurus like Jesus, say, around, or Muhammad, and so it's not really, well, it depends. I mean, because it's your karma, it's why you're here. And eventually, think about the universe, think about eternity. Eventually, we will do everything, and we'll know what it was like. We probably do now, because eternity is a very long time. And so we can, go through our life in an enlightened manner, but not having to take on any more worries. The world worries. Like, I meet people now, they're worried about the climate change. And before that, they were worried about also the war there's no war now, but there's one coming. It's an attitude. You can live like that, and a lot of people do, or you can be like me, looking really for the next experience. What's the next experience? What's it going to be? It's very exciting.
I'm gonna throw out a couple of kind of when I do an episode, I have a few questions I asked at the end of each one. No problem. I was thinking about barking back for fun, but come here. Oh, someone's in town. It's okay. Get them on screen up. So at the end of the episodes, I asked a few questions about the episodes, but I'm going to throw it out for all of us, thinking about our lives, thinking about your life. And Luke, of course, jump on this. The deepest you personally found yourself in the Twilight Zone in your life. I'm going to give my example of going off when I was a kid. My dad and I went to a seafood restaurant, I think. Oh yeah, sure.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm on a podcast, so. Okay, man. We'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow, but the other guy will be tomorrow. Okay, man. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay. Doing a little house construction.
No problems. He might have been teaching us something. We probably learned a lesson there. Okay. Yeah, my first question for all of us really is, when in your life did you find yourself deepest in the Twilight Zone? I'll give my example of when I was a teenager, my father and I went to the beach and ate at this restaurant. Everything looked like the 1920s. The food was great. It was really cheap. We liked it. So 6 months later, like, let's go back to that place. It was really good. And it was like a sports bar, and it didn't look like a new sports bar. So our guess is, oh, we must have like time jumped into like 1922 or something for a few minutes and ate some fried clams, you know? So I like to cite that as my, I had a nice lunch as my Twilight Zone experience. So uh Tommy, I know you have a few of them, so you know one that you want to
Wow.
share on air, of course. But what's your deepest truth of
Wow.
the Twilight Zone you're willing to share?
It was the other night. I do the sleep aid, and there's a CBD mixed with a little melatonin and stuff. Anyway, every once in a while, it would give me some really Twilight Zone dreams where they're that Twilight Zone is a great way to describe myself. When we visit my aunt and uncle, when I was about 10, 11 years old, my aunt had a beautiful bed with a quilt. It was so nice. And it was so nice that one time she let me sleep in there. So I would go visit, but I'd sneak off and have my nap. And while I'm sleeping, I woke up, but not physically awake. My mind, in my mind, I could hear what was going around me, but I lost the ability to speak, but I could hear everything. And I'm laying there, and I know I'm comfortable and laying there, but my mind is awake, but my body's asleep. And I tried to talk, and no sound came out. And I tried to scream, and no sound would come out because I was asleep. My body was asleep, but my mind was awake. And so I had to really be calm. I remember being kind of calm, relaxing, because for a while there you panic because like you're trapped and no one can hear you and you're stuck in, and then you realize, oh man, you're just asleep. So go to sleep and wake up right. In fact, that's what my mother used to say to me. Oh, go to sleep and wake up right. And that's what I had to do. And so I did it. But I remember the feeling. And because I was extremely tired at one time. But it was a freaky thing. So the other morning, I was in that Twilight Zone sleep. But in my dream, I'm trying to call my wife. In my dream, we got separated. She was across the town, and we're connected only by the phone. And my phone, first, I lost power. That was it. I needed to charge up my phone, and so I couldn't charge it up. And it was so maddening because I couldn't get a hold of her. I couldn't get a hold of her. And it was so real that when I finally woke up, first thing I did, I picked up my phone and I phoned my wife, who was in the next room. And she goes, what? So I just wanted to, and I told her about the dream. She wasn't really that interested, but I told her about my dream that I had, and so she said, "Oh, so you had to phone me so you could complete that." And that's what it was. It was you can't complete a project because you don't have everything, and so when I finally woke up, I completed it. I thought it would make me feel better, but it really did.
Now, I've had a problem sometimes, not a problem, it's more just an amusement where I'll, check my phone in the morning for the time or the weather and then realize, oh man, that wasn't the real phone. I can't really trust the information it just gave me because that was like a Dreamland phone.
It was a dream phone.
Yeah. So it's like a few times it was like, oh man, it's way too late. And then, I wake up and it's like, oh, I'm still like on time. So that's cool.
Yeah.
That was my alarm.
Yeah, my wife, it's funny. What they called anxiety. That's what it was. Anxiety, dreams. You get anxious. Oh, yeah, anxious. Another dream I have, it's kind of cool because I was in a really cool rhythm and blues band, I won't say rock band. It wasn't rock at all. In fact, rock came in later and almost was the reason that I got out of the music business, because I was not that young, and I'd rather play blues than rock. But I was in the band, and one of my dreams is that I get the band back, because one of the used to play with a lot of singers, different singers, but all of a sudden I hooked up with one singer that was phenomenal, and to the point where Bobby Taylor was his name, and he was a legend among singers and the word would get out, his underground legend. And we got signed with Motown because of Bobby, and because of a song that I wrote, and Bobby sang it. And it was an interracial song about "Does Your Mama Know About Me?" was the name of the song. And for a while there, we toured with the Temptations and the Supremes and the Smokey Robinson and Jerry Butler and all the groups. We were up at that level. Stevie Wonder, that was when he was little Stevie Wonder, young Stevie Wonder, and so I was up there, and every once in a while I have these dreams about putting that band back together again, and it's really it is a dream of mine. It would to be able to recapture that special moment when everything is working and you're on stage and it's incredible.
Yeah, I've done enough gigging. I have those dreams sometimes, but the weirdest one of those I had is I had this dream. I'm on stage. It's like an arena. I'm playing bass for Def Leppard. I'm like, I don't even like Def Leppard. Why am I playing bass for Def Leppard? My dream, I was like, well, there's a crowd here. It's kind of cool to still just groove with a band. So I did it, but I was like, why
Yeah,
am I having
Def
this dream?
Leppard.
It's like, I don't even like them. So, but it would be cool to go be in front of a arena playing with them, sure. So
I mean, if
wasn't
Def
a dream.
Leppard walked up to you and asked you to play, you're not going to say no, whether
Exactly.
you like them or not.
It's just weird. That's the dream I had.
Yeah, it's my life. I've really been ordained. There's been something really special with me, and I'm really all my life too. I go way back, and I've what it is. It's I've had these encounters with really great people, like Muhammad Ali, for instance. When he was given a lecture tour, he was touring around. Well, Bobby Taylor, the legendary singer, Bobby would always have these stories about great people that he interacted with, and one of the stories was that he went to the Olympics with Muhammad Ali when it was Cassius Clay, and sure enough, we're in Detroit. We're in the middle of our recording career or performance career, and Bobby calls me up, and he says the champ's coming over, because what Bobby said was true. He did know Muhammad Ali personally. And so Muhammad Ali was coming over to Bobby's apartment in Detroit. Well, just so happened I'd been in San Francisco a couple of days earlier, and I met a friend of mine. I used to play for a strip show, like a circus. And one of the girls, Lady Scarlet, she said, we were always in touch. We used to be always in touch, and she called me up. She goes, "Guess who I was with the other night?" And I said, "Who?" She goes, "Muhammad Ali." I said, "Really?" "Yeah." She said she met him. She'd met him before, and then they got together, had a little, little night on the town. And I said, "Oh, that's so cool." Muhammad Ali. Next thing I know, I'm in the elevator with Muhammad Ali. We're going up to the same floor. He doesn't know me from Adam, and he's kind of trying to look, not notice me, look up. There's only two of us in the elevator. He's looking around, trying to ignore me, and so I said, "Lady Scarlet says to say hi," and his eyes got all big. He looked at me like, "Where did this guy come from?" And then the elevator stopped, and it was the floor, and he gets off the floor. I get off the floor. We go to the same apartment building where Bobby was. And Bobby said to Muhammad, "Oh, you met Tommy? Oh yeah, this is Tommy Chong, the guitar player. This is Muhammad Ali." And my first wife was there, and so we didn't say anything about Lady Scarlet or anything. But we took pictures and everything else. But the look on his face. But that's what my life has been like that. I've had encounters with all the Beatles except Paul. And I put the word out that he's the only Beatle that I hadn't either smoked in front of or smoked with. And because I smoked with George quite a bit, but not, and I could have smoked with John one time. And I've always been around Ringo here and there. You know, he's a bit of an alcoholic. It was anyway. But, and George and I always smoked, but Paul is the only guy, Beatle, that I hadn't smoked with. And so, I got the word out, and Paul knows it too. And so we got a date that one day we're gonna. He wants to smoke with Cheech and Chong, so one day it'll be Cheech and Chong and Paul, and we will record it for sure.
Yeah, you gotta, yeah. Hey Luke, did you want to throw out anything particularly trippy you got just to bounce off, see how it lands?
Let's see. I did have one ghost encounter.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So my ex-girlfriend, a ghost.
Oh.
My ex-girlfriend in the UK, she lived in one house and her grandmother lived like right next door. While we were dating, her grandmother passed away. So I'm with her in her house, in her bedroom, and I look out the window into the grandmother's house, and there's her grandmother in the other house, just in the window looking back at me.
And she had passed away?
Yeah.
So it was her ghost?
Well, I mean, when I'm trying to be logical, I'm like, oh, maybe it was another relative and I didn't know them. But it's clear as day to me, I was looking at the grandmother who passed away. Yeah.
Yeah, it was her etheric, I think they call it. Have you heard that? The etheric, the form that they had when they were on Earth.
Mm.
It will visit areas that they know. Like if they sat in a window, you'd see them sitting in the window. Yeah. It's a trip. That's a trip.
But look, when I tell people that story, they act like it's something scary, but it really wasn't for me.
No,
because she was a really nice lady, and it was actually quite comforting.
I guess that's the thing I'm thinking. Like getting to my second question for episodes is I asked if these people deserve their trips in a Twilight Zone, and all of our little trips. We get a nice lunch, or we see someone on the way out, or I think I'm going to take your Muhammad Ali story over the over the sleep paralysis one. That was great. But I'm like, yeah, these are all experiences I think we deserve. I mean, if he had gotten angry and punched you in the face, that maybe, yeah, that wouldn't be so great, but that didn't happen. So
no, it was it was one of those encounters. My life has been very serendipity in so many kind of freaky ways. And I know, well, I got turned on to spirituality. Where's my book? There's a poet or a mystic. His name is Joel Goldsmith. Hold on. Oh, here it is. And this is really my go-to Twilight Zone story, because this changed my life. This is the book. It's called The Master Speaks, and it's by Joel S. Goldsmith. Now he's a Jewish Christian scientist. Like he was born a Jew, but he got into Christian Science. Mary Baker Eddy, and he was a reader in her when back in the day. This is around the World War I. This World War I. This is how far back he goes, and he became a mystic more by accident than anything. His father was dying, and he had to take a boat back to England, where his father was from, and then the Christian Science told him that your father doesn't need to die. You can heal him. You have the power. And so he did a healing, and sure enough, when he arrived back in England, his dad met him at the dock, wow, healthy, well, fine. And then he got on the boat and went back to America with Joel. So Joel, but so this is what I found out later. So I started exploring the occult and the mysticism, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, that kind of, I was on that, the Tibetan thing. And then somewhere along the line, I was told that if you, when you're ready, the teacher appears, kind of thing. And I was directing my thoughts toward mysticism at that time. And so one day I'm in New York City. I got my gym bag. I'd love to go to New York because there was a bodybuilding gym called Mid City that all the heavies used to work out there, and I'd go there. I really liked working out there. And I was walking with my gym bag on there, and all of a sudden I felt something literally take my body and stop me, and then turn me to face a store. And it was HarperCollins publishing house. And then I felt this force take me into the store. Literally, it was almost like I was looking for who's pushing me, because I had no intentions of going into the store. But next thing I'm in the store, then I felt my hand, someone take my hand and reach down and grab a book. And I come up with not this one, but the Joel Goldsmith biography.
Okay.
And so I said, oh, so I went over to the cashier, and she goes, oh, you want that book? And she said, I can help you. So we make the transaction. I didn't go to the gym. I took that book. And then after I got the book, the force went away. I couldn't feel anything after that. And so I got the book in my hand. So I got to read this. So I didn't go to the gym. I went home and I read every bit of it. And it was his biography, the story of Joel. And then I started getting all the books. He never wrote anything. What he would do, he would give lectures. And the way he started giving talks, when this neighborhood talks in his kitchen. And then these ladies started recording them. And then they would take the recordings and transcribe them into books. And then he got appeared at the Wiltern Theater in 1953, 54. And a lot of his books were recorded at that theater that he was at. And what he does, what he did for me, and he does for everybody, is teach you who you really are, how ordained that we are. And it's one of those ask and ye shall receive, one of those things. He quotes the Bible quite a bit, off and on, but he quotes his other writer, Emmett Fox. And that's who I ended up also getting Emmett Fox books. Now, Emmett Fox, another Jew that translated the Bible, the Christian Bible, into lay terms, so you understand all the meanings of it. And so you learn all these secrets, and that's what I learned. I learned the secret of healing. I learned the secret of, eternal life. I learned the secret of prosperity. I learned the secret of getting along with people, success. And as you can see, my life, it's because of what I was reading. Now, I was on the right path. Don't get me wrong, I was on the right path all my life. I've always been on that path. And but I was just handed to one teacher to another. But it was a Goldsmith, me being led right to that store. And the age I was, that was like, wow. And I mean, to this day, I know that feeling. And I haven't really felt that since that where something really took me and shoved me around. Now, I did, in my career, would blurt out things at certain times, especially when I was with the band, because I was a songwriter, but I was also like the least of all the musicians. I was like a backup guitar player. I was never a lead. And I was always in the background. I never really spoke, but I had the power to put like nightclubs together and get work for us and find Bobby Taylor and have a hit record, go to Motown and rise up that way to a certain amount, or then meeting Cheech. That was another ordained kind of thing, very, very special. Because I really, well, we all are put here to help each other, basically. But I feel that I'm here, well, definitely to get pot legal, you know, and because that's what we did, you know, with Cheech and I, and to not spread the word, because the first thing he tells you to do in the book is do not preach, do not try to start your own religion. He says, that's not your job, you know. Your job is to abide by the book, not try to sell it to somebody else. You know, you can spend your whole life learning how to act yourself without trying to preach to somebody else. And like he said, you know, in the book, he says, those that do, you know, they have their own reward, whatever it is, or punishment, or whatever it is, because the way Goldsmith has taught us, it's not the money that, the amount of money that you have, more so than it's the amount of satisfaction that you have inside of you, knowing that you are doing your best to make the world a better place. And that is a peace of mind, you see. And that you can't, there's no way, you can't put a price on that. You know, that's why these wealthy billionaires, if you meet them, a lot of them are the loneliest creatures on the planet because they're, you know, their money builds a moat around them, you know, and all of a sudden they're protected by everybody that are there just to get their money. You know, it's a shitstorm.
There was a picture recently of Jeff Bezos. He was at Space Mountain at Disneyland, and he booked the roller coaster to himself. So there's this photo of this one lonely guy sat alone on a roller coaster, looking like the most miserable man you've ever seen. It's like, how is this more fun than just riding the roller coaster with the other people?
I know. I hang with these guys all the time, the Trumpies. You know, they love me because I'm famous.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I correct, you know, people go home, want to take my picture and pose and everything. And I'm famous not only with people, but with the young kids, and like their own kids won't talk to them, and they went with Tommy Chong, and they want to hear all about it. And so I've got a lot of those friends. But yeah, it's that satisfaction that again, I'm always reading my book. It keeps me centered, you know, balance. And my wife, my wife is another product of my spiritual quest, because I really prayed for her to show up. I didn't know that she would actually show up, and she did, and we've been together forever. And my first wife, we're still very tight, and kids and everything is definitely fine. I am so lucky because I'm happy with what I've done and what I've got. That it doesn't matter what you do or what you have, as long as you're happy with it.
Yeah, you can definitely go with that. I'm gonna, before we finish today, I just quickly want to get, like, we do talk about these episodes on a tripometer. I have to share the tripometer with you. I mean, that just goes without saying. Where 0 is not trippy at all, 5 is extremely trippy. And I would just love to get, like, Tommy Chong's, like, you know, 5 on the tripometer suggestion for a, you know, an album or a movie. You know, what's got your attention recently?
A couple of things. The the problem we have with guns, the violence, and I figured out. Well, I figured out a way to help humanity with what we have. You see, the system we have is perfect because it's imperfect. It has the ability. We have the ability to elect someone like Donald Trump. And then we have also the ability to get rid of someone just like Donald Trump. That's our electoral process. It's a genius, and you can't game it, as he found out. So the way you learn, you can't give wisdom away like freebies. Wisdom is something, it takes years to acquire sometimes, or sometimes you're born with it, whatever. It's a gift. And that's, by the way, that was the only thing that I really tell people that you have to pray for. You don't have to pray for anything but wisdom, because when you have wisdom, that's the answer. Whatever's bugging you, whatever's lacking in your life, you have the wisdom to accept it, or to replace it, or whatever it is, but it's wisdom, and that's knowledge. And then what I've learned is I know I enjoy the fame. I know quite a few actors in that they're embarrassed with the fame. And the reason a lot of, and I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't talk like this, because another one that I follow is Judge Not. But it's just my opinion that a lot of people aren't, especially actors, they fool you. You see them in roles and that, and you think, oh my God, they're so brilliant and everything. And then you find out they're a Trumpy, or they're some kind of racist asshole. I mean, it's like, what? Then you realize that actors have the ability to use other people's words and make them sound like they're their own, because they're good actors. And so a lot of times you get fooled. You think it's the guy, and it's not the guy, it's the writer that really is the genius behind it all. And so when you meet the ones that are really solid, and that's why I've always admired jazz or great literature, great artist, someone that is not bullshit. You can see what they do. You hear what they do. You appreciate what they do, and in a creative manner, But if it's a kind of creativity that helps humanity, now that is something like Muhammad Ali, for instance. He literally showed us the beginning of a beautiful person, who just had all the gifts and everything in the world. And then he showed us that it's like he couldn't let go of the past. He couldn't age gracefully. And that was the trouble with sports itself, because a lot of those sports guys, they're sacrificing their youth, and their health, to make other people go, whoa, that was great, And then, like, I see Jim Brown every once in a while walking around. He can hardly walk because his knees are all banged up from being tackled by so many places. But you have to sacrifice in order to gain. But if you do it right, you don't have to hurt yourself or anybody else. And the way you do it is by sharing what you got. You see, that's the secret of life. We're here not only to repopulate the planet, but we're also here to help each other, because helping each other is really a test. It's a character test. And that character test takes place as you're growing up. If you pass the test, then you evolve, and you keep evolving, and you keep evolving. And if you fail the test, that means you just have to repeat the course again, you see. And this is what I learned. And so that's why you'll find there are people that have a lot of money that are very happy, because you know the secret is that the secret of wealth, especially, is wealth is like a fertilizer. You know, it does no good to keep it in your in a shed. It only does good when it's spread around the planet. And the more you spread the wealth around the planet, the more wealth you're going to acquire, because that's way like a bad idea or a bad, a lie will always come back to the owner of that lie, the creator of the lie. Well, the wealth, once you spread the goodness around, it multiplies, and it multiplies again. And so if you got the right heart, you can't give your fortune away, because the more you give it away, the more it comes back to you. You see, and that's the way it is. In a very nice way, it comes back to you in so many positive ways. Like with me, I'm surrounded by beauty. I've been surrounded by beauty all my life. That this woman that I'm married to, we've been together so long, it's embarrassing to say it. Our oldest daughter's over 50. She's in her 70s, and she looks like a 14-year-old, or maybe make it legal, make it 18. but that's how lucky and prosperous I am, all because I follow the rules. See, life is like golf. It's exciting, it's maddening, it's everything. You think you got it together, and the next shot you're in the shitter, because you lost your concentration. That's what life is like. And in the end, if you do it honestly, then life will reward you. And honesty is a must. It's a must for your own selfhood. But you don't condemn anybody else. And the reason you don't condemn anybody else is because you need that. When you condemn, and you judge, and you should not judge for your own happiness. And I've been trying to live by that. It's very tough, but I'm close. I'm getting close to it. And by the way, everything I said is for you guys. You see, my wife would not sit through me talking, or my son, or anybody close to me, because I don't have that respect that you have with strangers that are, that want to hear what you have to say, or people that we think alike, and that's one thing.
Yeah.
No, it's
You were
like my
talking
wife.
about, the way ordained, the way your life's come together. And like Matt was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I was born in Surrey in the UK. Somehow we both met in this valley in Japan. And Matt and me, I both talk about, you had that force that took you to that book. Some force took over my life and took me to here, the center of Zen Buddhism in Japan. And yeah, this 6 years ago, I was working in a supermarket in the UK.
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
look at us now, sometimes
Look at us.
You got to
And
follow
we can
that
see.
flow.
That's what I mean. See how serendipity life is. I mean, what made you contact me? What you guys contacted me. There's a force going on, and I did a podcast with Joe Rogan. Now, Joe, when I met Joe was a big fan of me because I'm a comedian, and not only a comedian, but records, movies, and everything else. And so Joe really looked up at me. but when he found out my politics and, in the way I think, it's like, ooh, like he likes the guns and everything else. And I think anybody, well, I was in the military in a sense, I was an Army cadet, so I know all about weapons. And the first thing they teach you in weapons in the military is that this will kill you. You either respect it or just put it in a safe place. Respect it. It will kill. And so you don't, so I learned all that.
I guess they don't tell you that the Walmart is part of the problem. you draw
Yeah.
your gun
Oh,
there.
did I tell you my solution is we got to treat America like a movie set, you know, because when you think about it, everybody in America and probably Japan too, there's a camera everywhere.
Mm.
So we're being filmed right now. I'm being filmed. You're being filmed some way, you know, on the street, in the hall, or a selfie, or phones. Just like when Trump did his armed revolution or his near coup, everybody had a camera recording all the crimes they were committing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the crime. Hey, look at me. I'm in the Speaker Pelosi's office committing a crime. I'm going to do 40 years of, 5 years or something in jail because of this selfie. And so what I see with and I can see cities designating, like in LA, designating areas as a movie set, and then using people in that area as actors. And then when you're finished with the movie, when you shoot whatever movie you want, be it a documentary on homeless or whatever, these are actors now. And so you have to strike the set. And so when you strike the set, you eliminate the homeless camps, you put people in decent houses. And I mean, that's one of the solutions I have. And I also have another solution for the marchers from South America. I would like to hire them all as actors, because I think when you march 1,300 miles or something with carrying a kid, that's like an audition. That means you really want to come into America for whatever reason. So why not bring them in as actors and then have them join all the guilds, have them go to school, house, clothes, give them work, and they can add to our economy, raise the kids as Americans, educate them as Americans, have the artist, all the cream of the crop, because when you walk 1,300 miles carrying a kid, I think that's enough that I need to know that you really want to be here. And so we can make it easy. And I can see doing disaster areas with that. And I also see the plus side of the Ukraine, the war that's going on in the Ukraine. And what's really going to happen is that eventually, they're going to turn on Putin, and they're going to overthrow Putin, and then they're going to the Ukraine, and then Russia is going to become a democratic place to live, like the Ukraine is inching toward, and we're going to have peace, because the only reason we have wars now is for the oil. And because we learned how to replace oil with electricity, with electric cars and that, and power plants, we can replace coal with the sun and the solar. Now, what I would like to do that as a movie, showing everybody that it can be done, and then having countries, copy the movie.
We have so many movies showing us how to fight wars and how to shoot people and how to. Where's the movie showing us how to fix it?
Yeah, basically that's what we got now. We got games where you take an AK and you shoot everybody in sight. That's the game.
Yeah.
You see, back in my day, they outlawed what do they call them? Gangster films, gangster comics, and that they outlawed them because it showed too much violence. Well, now you got video games where that's your whole game. And that's what these kids that are killing people, they grew up playing those games, those video games, you see. You don't need that, you don't need it. You can have instead of shooting people, have them, paintball, do a paintball. And then you don't hurt anybody,
Because it's Splatoon, isn't it?
Yep.
We got at least one game for that. But hey, Tommy, I think we've already eaten up a bit more of your time than was originally, so we appreciate that. But is there some stuff you've been up to recently you want to tell the folks about?
Sell some product.
Or just like if you're appearing in something, you got the dispensaries, whatever's on your mind.
We're going to be, there's some Cheech and I got another gig. Cheech opened an art museum, a Chicano art museum. in Riverside, California. And it's beautiful, and it's been sold out every day. And it's like incredibly successful. And so we got that to look forward to. We're about to go legal public with Cheech and Chong weed and CBD. That's part of my thing. And yeah, so everything on that level is doing really well. We're kicking ass in there. I'm making these little carvings. I don't know if you can see it. This is out of a antler horn. Well, what it is, it's a joint holder. Where's my joint? Oh, here's one. See, I'm back to smoking joints. And so what I do, I put them here. I want to light it up this way. And then I want to set it down. You don't have to worry about ashtrays. You just set it down. And then it goes up by itself. And so, but I've been testing a lot of these NFTs they're called. But even though, the Bitcoin now is sort of like in trouble, that still is part of our future, But I've been dealing with art, like Cheech's museum. I don't think we'll be doing live shows. I'm going to hook up with my son, my youngest son, and do some music. I got some ideas that I want to do some. I was listening to rap, and the rap is cool, but I think we got room for not Christian rap, not spiritual rap, more like comedic rap, where it makes you smile, Like I wrote a song about a biker. A biker. I wrote lyrics for it many years ago, and I wrote another song about a cop. Sergeant Sunshine is his name. He was in San Francisco, and he was it's a true story. He got turned on to LSD when it came out, and so they called him Sergeant Sunshine because he would go around and turn on everybody he could, to LSD, and eventually he left his job. It was kind of a mutual,
not really compatible.
Put on some clothes and you cover your balls and you're fired.
Fantastic. Like I said, I guess this is like for us, like kind of a multi-podcast thing. So you'll just find us Podcastio at Patreon, where we talk about lots of things. Luke loves some Pokemon, for some nicer video games.
I love your headphones, and you remind me of Howard Stern. Because that's what Howard Stern, he needed his mic, and it's almost like a soother,
Yeah. No, it looks like your next Christmas present's got to be a mic holder.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
No, it's become my shtick.
I did a ton of radio when I was when Cheech and I broke up. Cheech, was on television with Don Johnson. I went on the road doing stand-up with my wife. And so I would do early morning radio all the time. Loved it. Had a great time. You meet nice people, man. And radio. And I got a friend that owns a lot of radio stations. And I still like radio. But I grew up with it. So.
Yeah, when I started podcasting, what was the complaint? I had too much of a radio voice, probably because I'd been doing the radio.
You had a face for radio, did you?
I had a face for radio. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I guess we'll wrap it up for today then. But man, it's been always a blast talk. It's very cool that we can just kind of zoom on in with Tommy Chong every here and there.
Well, anytime, like you say, I do live in the Twilight Zone. I always have, and it's a good place to be. Good time to play golf too. Twilight. That's what we used to do, because what happens? It gets dark and you got to quit. And so you don't slug through the whole 18 holes. So you only play. We play 6 holes.
That's gonna be Palm Springs though, yeah, like Palm Springs or something. Because I'm thinking if you did that if you did that here, you're gonna get eaten by mosquitoes playing
Oh
golf
yeah,
at Twilight.
Oh yeah, there. Yeah. No, the desert, man. I love the desert. I love golf, though. You know, I got into golf well, I got into talking about it in prison. And then when I got out, my buddy that I was in jail with, he arranged to get me a set of free clubs from Cleveland. And so I started playing golf. And then I came up with a very unique way of putting, where I putt with the nose of the putter. And you can't miss it. It's like playing pool almost. In fact, it is like playing pool. And one hand and with the nose. And so I got pretty deadly with that. I was going to build a game. I'm a professional procrastinator, by the way. I got so many projects that one of these days, that was the phrase my dad used to say, one of these days, one of these days.
Well, we know you get some of them done at least, so.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Okay, thanks. We'll have to catch you another time. Keep it groovy out there.
Another time.
Peace.
You guys keep it cool. Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye.